Okay, today I wanted to go over how to use the yfinance library to access the Yahoo Finance API and build some trend following um, calculations from it, and just to show where like a current portfolio might be in regards to different moving averages. Now, you could also use this to create some sort of buy or sell signal by using like crossbacks or something like that. I'm not going to get that detailed. I want to keep this pretty simple and basic. And I'm going to show you how to do this on the back end. And then I'll briefly show you how you can put it on the front end, but that's a lot more information. I want to keep this simple and straight to the point so that it was easy to create on your own. So what we've got here is I've got two files. One where I'm using the indices I track here. You can make this any portfolio of stocks, and if you know how to use read and open, you could import an Excel file of your portfolio or just type it out manually, however you want to do it. And I'm going to import one function from my functions file called my.Test. And then basically what we're going to do is we're going to grab all the data from that. It's a data dictionary whose key value pairs are these are the keys, so the different moving averages, which you can change if you want. And then the values is a list of stocks that are above these different moving averages. So whatever the key is in the dictionary, the value of that key is a list of stocks above that key, which EMA 20, SMA 50, and I'll show you what this looks like. If you run the file, you basically get a list in this case, it's index ETFs, but that are above the 20-day exponential, 50-day simple moving average, 200-day simple moving average, and currently there's none below. So let's take a look at how these functions work. So let's take a look at the big one, which is the MA compute test. So what you pass in is a list of stocks, or a single stock, I guess, if you want, and then a date. So currently the way I have mine set up, and you can adjust this to do anything you want, I like to look at currently what's happening. So like right now it's 10 a.m. in Utah, so it's noon Eastern time. The markets are open. It's Thursday, December 14th. So the markets are live. So if I pass in the word today, it's going to show me current time with a whatever the Yahoo Finance 15-minute delay or 10-minute delay is. So basically today's where the price is relative to that moving average. And if I type in yesterday, it's going to show me yesterday's close. So I can see the difference between yesterday and today. You can adjust it to be anything. You can look at last week versus today, last month, like however you want. I'll show you how to change that. And so basically what we're doing, we're going to create an empty dictionary, and then these are going to be the key value pairs that are going to get put into the dictionary. So right now it's list 20, list 50, list 200, and list under. And then we're just going to do a basic for loop for stock and stocks. We're going to do an API call for that stock. We are going to get its current price, its current 20-day exponential moving average, 50-day simple, 200-day simple. And then the way I look at these, and you can change these conditionals, if I don't want to know that a stock's above its 20-day exponential moving average unless it is also above its 50-day and the 50 is above the 200-day. Now you can delete this if you just want to see anything above the 20, you could just get rid of this. But, a stock that's been hammered down on the downside, you've got the 200 and then the 50 below it and then the 20. And if there's some sort of dead cat bounce, it could easily pop above the 20, but it's really not of interest to me until the trend begins this way. So if that's not the case for you, just delete this and it'll do it fine. So if these conditions are true, it will append it to the list for the 20 EMA. If this condition is true, which is current price above the 50, 50 above the 200, append it to this, so on and so forth. And then once the for loop's done, we'll go in here and we will just create the key value pair. So we're setting the key here for the stock list dictionary, and then the value is just the list of stocks where those conditions are true. And let's take a look at this API data call function. So this is what's actually going to access Yahoo Finance. So up here, this is how I created the function. Now, in my full stack front end application, I'm looking at a lot more stocks at one time, like hundreds of stocks. So I do batch calls and I cache the data. So like if you've already looked up JP Morgan or Wells Fargo in the last few minutes, it won't have to call it again. It will just be stored in the cache dictionary. But I'm not doing, again, for simplicity purposes, I'm not going to do that here. Oops, we don't want that. Oh, that was weird. Okay, go back up here. Okay, so the call function. So I'm setting Today is today, just using date time. Oh, and up here I'm importing yfinance as yf, and then you have to install this. So it's just install yfinance. And then uh, using date time and time delta, I'll show you why in a second. So you could use this to adjust for if you wanted to look at last week versus today, last month, whatever. Um, so this is the API data call function. So today is just date time dot today or date then dot today. And then tomorrow we're just using time delta to add 1 day because the way the moving average is going to look, it needs to look at the most recent close, which like if the market's open currently, it needs to look back a day. So it actually needs to start tomorrow, so to speak, to look back. So that's why it's set this way. And then we just make sure the end date is properly adjusted the way the yfinance library needs it to send it. So we just do this really real basic, and then the data is just going to be a YF, which is yfinance dot download, and then you just have to pass symbol, start date, end date. I'm using the furthest I go back is a 200-day moving average, so I just hard code this as the middle of last year. You can put this to whatever you want, but just make sure it's far enough back where you can get however far. Whether if you're just doing 50 days, just realize it's 50 market open days. So trading days doesn't include weekends and holidays. So just you'll have to calculate that. But this is fine. This doesn't really take any more time by going back. You could go back 2 more years. It wouldn't make a huge difference. And then we're going to return the data. Okay. So then we take that data here and we pass it through to calculate these three things or four things. So how do those work? Current price is pretty simple. We pass in the data and the date. So if the date is today, then it's going to calculate current price, like literally right now or 10 minutes delayed, whatever. And then if it's yesterday, it's going to look back to yesterday's close. And so the yfinance library is pretty cool because it imports all the Yahoo Finance data into a Pandas data frame. And so you can use, I always forget if this stands for integer or index, but Pandas is cool because you can access things either by its index position or by an actual string. So like right here, data, this close is the column name. So you can access it using a string. Or if you knew where close was, you could use an index, but I have no idea where that is on the data frame. I'd have to look it up. And then you can also use ilock if you want to get the index. So the last row is always -1. So if it's going to be today, I'm going to get literally the most recent row in the data frame, the pandas data frame. And if I want yesterday's, I need to do -2. So I'm indexing back up one. So getting yesterday's price. And so that one's really basic. It's just literally grabbing the column close and the row you want, and it's getting that number, which is the current price. Also to note, Yahoo Finance returns like adjusted close, all sorts of different columns. You could use adjusted close if you want. I'd have to look it up. I think it's just ADJ like that. Um, for me personally, when I'm trading, like I'm going to know if my stock's splitting or it's got some funky dividend thing. So like adjusted close isn't really interesting to me, and it can kind of mess up the moving average data. But if you want to change that, you can. It's pretty easy to do. And then the exponential moving average calculation. So this one's a little bit different. You need the same API, the data frame data, the date, and then you also want to pass in the EMA period the way I calculated this. So what's cool is, as I mentioned, you can change these to whatever you want. If you want to use, I mean, the market's, the last couple of weeks has been ripping. So maybe you want to use an 8 EMA or a 10 EMA, or you want to use a 65-day exponential or 65-day simple. As long as you change this, the function itself will take care of it. So I kind of made the functions to be as evergreen as possible, so I can use them in other projects. But all we're doing here basically is we are setting data, just using an F string here, whatever the EMA period is. And then we're doing the same thing here. So we're grabbing the column close from the data frame. And then we're just doing a simple built-in function here, the EWM, which is going to get us the exponential weighted exponential weighted mean. And all that's doing is the EMA period, which is why you have to pass it in. So it's going to go back 20 days with no adjustment, and we're going to get the mean of that. So an exponential weighted moving average, the price yesterday is worth more than the price 10 days ago, whereas a simple moving average, every day's closing price is worth the same amount. So it's literally just like if we did a simple 10-day moving average, it would just be add up the last 10 days close price, divide by 10. Exponential gives more weight to the current price, and it decreases as you go back further. And doing the same thing here. If it's yesterday, great, -2. today, just index, this is the last row again, and it's setting it to the moving average here. And it's returning that moving average, that single number for that one stock. Simple is the same thing, except we can just use this rolling function and we just have to pass in the SMA period, and then it's the mean once again. So this stuff's all built in. Nothing much you have to do with that. And then that'll return the simple moving averages. So once we get back these 4 pieces of information, we run it through the conditionals. We set each key value to, we set the key to the value, which is the list of stocks where this condition right here is true because we append it. And then we return the stock list, which is just a dictionary with list of stocks in it. And then down here, we just run the file. And voila, we have, so again, this is all backend. This is just for personal use. I mean, I guess you could change this. I'm just going to change a couple of these so we can see, let's see what some of these are doing. There's some of the current stocks. See, I like. Just take a look if this changes much. What else we got? Oh, Dash, Uber's doing well. Okay, whatever, that's fine. Save the file. We will rerun it. And you can see JP Morgan, IoT, Dash, Uber, these are all above the 20-day exponential moving average. That's weird, Shark Ninja didn't show up, but okay. Strange. All right, so that's how that works. And then I just wanted to show real quickly, let me save this. I'll show you the application I built here. To show how it can do this on the front end for us. And so here you can actually build so if you want to take this onto the front end, you can build out this allows you to create, multiple portfolios. You can add different stocks, delete the stocks you don't want. And then again, you can see the breadth detail here. It breaks out basically what I was showing on the back end, but does it on the front end for you. And I'll show you how quick the data cache works. See how quickly it didn't have to call every API again. It had all the data stored and it ran this. And this just summarizes each one. So to give you an idea what that looks like, if you are interested, it's a little bit more complicated in the sense that because it's displaying the names and the tickers, and users just give the tickers when they build the portfolio. So that when they put the ticker in, it then is going to call the API to get the name of the stock and then store the ticker and the name inside of the SQL database. And then we call the data, we get the data from the database to then call to get the actual pricing information. But so it's a bit more complicated. But I'll just show you real quick how the batch data works. So when we send the stocks through, I do a batch API call, and this comes up here. Okay, and this is going to organize all the data for us to send one big call with all the symbols rather than each time, like in the for loop where it's going for stock and stocks, it's going through to the stock, calling the API, calculating the number, appending it to the list, back to the next stock, so this is just a faster way to do it. And then we use this data cache global variable. So it's just a massive dictionary. And we just have to add this if statement into our API call. So if the symbol is already in the data cache dictionary, then we're just going to return the symbol and the data in it, which is all the pricing data. Otherwise, we will go through and actually run the call to Yahoo Finance. And then, and here's where I was mentioning, you also, of course, have to clean the data before you put it in the database. So this does that to make sure the symbol you're putting in is actually real and exists, so it doesn't mess up the database. And then this is a basic function that just does the yf.ticker.info and then grabs short name from the dictionary. this info piece actually returns a ton of information, like the board of directors, the address of the company, the long name. I mean, there's a ton of data, so you can play around with this. And then just basically using different routes and I'm going to do a full code review. This is almost done. I've got a couple more pages left before I deploy it, and I'll do a full backend code review of this. But for right now, it's basically calling some different functions here and then passing all that data through the render template. And then up here, we're just using Jinja to grab the different, it's just a bunch of different lists of dictionaries and different objects. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I didn't want to dive too much into the full stack version of it, but I think this is a good place to get started to mess around with. Um, my favorite things to mess around with are the dot ticker with the dot info, and then yf dot download is what will actually get you. Where is it? Yeah, yf dot download. This will get you all the pricing history, and then if you kind of mess around with this and just delete short name from here, you'll get the whole thing in your terminal window here of everything you can access using that info method. So hope this was helpful. Hope everyone's having a great day and hope to be back with more coding stuff. All right, see ya.